Hey everyone. So, I'm going to make a couple videos kind of just going over the interviews I've done anonymously with some recruiters. I wanted to do this because I think it's useful for both recruiters to understand like just the tech industry in general and how broken recruiting is. And also, I think it's really good for junior developers to see this stuff to really understand what the other side of the table looks like when you're going in for job offers and interviews and whatnot. So, and I also had an idea to maybe I'll build a course for recruiters, but we'll see. For now, I'm just doing interviews just because it's been kind of interesting. So, this is from a senior technical recruiter in Seattle. Um, I asked him, can you describe your experience? He said he'd been recruiting for 8 years, uh, and I'm not really sure if I understand what a sourcing specialist is. An individual who simply finds talent based off of resume searching and setting up email lists. I mean, I don't know if that just means keyword searching, but he later also describes basically keyword searching. So I'm not super clear, what these levels of recruiting are, but basically, I can't see that they're doing anything really different. Um, so later he says, though, he did corporate recruiting for Amazon, Facebook, and Microsoft as a full time employee. Now, that's a bit different because everybody wants to work at the big five, which would be Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, and what's the other one I'm forgetting? Google. So if you work at one of those and you're a recruiter, you know, probably people are banging down your door because, I've heard the comp for like a tech lead at Facebook or something is $500,000 a year. So, you know, probably don't have to work very hard to get candidates there. Um, so let's go on. This is the most interesting thing. So I asked him to describe the process of reaching out to a candidate. He says, he gets the job postings from the job boards. So if you go to Dice or LinkedIn or whatever and you post that you're looking for a job, it's going to show up in his I don't know if I understand what's going on here, a dashboard or something, or they get an email. Anyway, he says he's emailing people. So this guy is manually looking through all the people that post on a job board and they show up. So here's kind of an interesting thing to notice about this. If you're a junior developer, you know, if you sign up to these sites and you like activate your account or whatever, you say you're looking for a job, you're popping up in somebody's dashboard when that happens. So I don't know what his filters are, but you know, maybe if you're trying to do that and you're trying to show up in people's dashboards, I don't know. What if you activate and deactivate your searching for a job? Does that mean you re-show up like a month later if you were to do that once a month? That's kind of interesting to think about because obviously it looks like he's not. He says every morning I come and review applicants that come in overnight. Well, if this guy's emailing all of them, and maybe he's just creating search strings. So he's saying like, do you have Python experience? Do you have JavaScript experience? Whatever. Like, let's say you deactivated your thing from 1 month and then you changed your skill list and then activated it again. You'd probably show up again in these recruiters like databases, and that you'd show up in their face, and they'll try to email you again. And I bet you this is location dependent. So if you were to list yourself at another locale, like, and put your address as your friend's house, and like, so I live in Minnesota, let's say I did that in Dallas and I put my address as my friend's house in Dallas, I bet that would totally show up in a whole different set of recruiter stuff. Anyway, this is just trying to understand the system. I know it's super hard for junior devs to get hired, and just interesting, right? So he goes on to say it's super simple. Like, all he's doing is saying, is it programming language 1 or programming language 2, nice, and some other skill. And if he finds a match with all of these keywords, he's going to email him. So that's really, really revealing about how simple this process is. They're literally seeing all the candidates that pop up in a dashboard for them, and it's like a list that just comes in. I don't know how it works, but it sounds like it's some kind of program or something that whatever staffing firm it is that they have and then they're just searching on their profile, and it says, "Oh, do you do JavaScript and Python? Okay, we'll send you an email because that's what this job is for." All right. The rest of this sounds pretty normal. Like they want to email you, and then if the candidate responds to the email, they're gonna set up a time to talk on the phone, and they're gonna ask questions. Now, this is the thing that's annoying to me. Like, I get a lot of recruiter emails, and they give no information. They're just like, "Hey, do you want to jump on the phone? I got an opportunity." I'm like, no, I don't really want to take like 20 minutes out of my day to figure out if I'm a good fit for this job, where you could have told me like who it's for and how much it pays and what blah 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 blah, whatever the job title is. Like, that's a super annoying thing to me. Like, if you tell me all of that information, I can know if I want to jump on the phone or not. I'm not saying that's going to improve their response rate, but it's going to waste everybody's time less. So I don't know. Anyway, so this is another thing that's super interesting, but not surprising, right? Like, he says he gets a 10% response rate. All right, well, I'm actually even surprised it's that high, because I know the amount of like basically spam that I get is pretty high. Like, if I'm on LinkedIn actively, I might, nicely reply like, "No, I'm not interested," kind of thing. But otherwise, it's just like there's the volume of the amount of messages people are sending. It's just not even like useful, right? So interestingly, not interestingly, it's pretty obvious. If if you're working for Facebook, and Facebook pays $500,000 a year, like compared to all the other companies that are paying like crap, yeah, you're gonna want to be recruited by Facebook, so you're gonna get lots of response. So maybe another thing is, if you're a recruiter, sounds like it's a pretty great deal to work for like Facebook or Amazon or Microsoft. However, I'm sure that you probably get less commission from those jobs. So I don't know. I don't really know how that works, but that's kind of interesting. So what seems to be the most effective in reaching potential candidates? I ask this because I'm trying to understand, like, if recruiters understand like what really makes developers want to reply. And I think they do, because like this guy obviously knows. If he's explaining why he reached out to the candidate. Well, yeah, that's super obvious though, because if I can tell a recruiter reached out after looking at my GitHub and they saw like some project that I've been working on, that makes me want to just reply to them, just because they seem like they're interested in my life. So yeah, this guy knows this because he's been recruiting for 8 years. I'm not even sure that the recruiters with 6 months of experience know this though. So this is kind of an interesting thing. Yeah, I asked this question to him because I've heard of, you can follow like Reddit recruiting hell and see stuff people are doing. But yeah, like, so I asked him if people respond negatively to him. He said, yeah, like sometimes they'll complain about other recruiters in the same org. So there are a couple of recruiting companies I know that like just bother me all the time, and like I'll have talked to one of the people just because I was curious to talk to him about a job. Like, sometimes if somebody's like hiring for a job in my neighborhood, I'm just curious to call the recruiter and say like, "Oh, what's the name of the company?" Like, I don't necessarily want to work there or anything. I just want to know who it is, just because it's interesting to me, and I might be wanting to know that down the road. Because it's kind of, you kind of want to know if there's like a startup in your backyard, right? But then like as soon as I do that, a bunch of other recruiters from the same company just start sending me messages, and it's like, that's just super annoying. I don't know. So I'm not surprised that people are complaining to this guy about other recruiters in the same organization. So some more of this that's pretty revealing here of how the industry works is, back when I was at a staffing firm and forced to smile and dial candidates off a list, people don't appreciate cold calls. Yeah, of course people don't appreciate cold calls. I almost never respond to a recruiter if they cold call me unless they like do something really out of the ordinary that's like really personal. Like they'll mention specifically a project on my GitHub, or they'll mention specifically like a company that I used to work for, or like somebody I used to work with that gave me a referral to them. I don't know. I mean, like that doesn't happen because most people I've worked with wouldn't give my information to a recruiter, but I mean, unless I ask them to. So I don't know. It's kind of interesting. Um, do you enjoy recruiting? No, I don't. Okay, let's stop and think about this. This is a recruiter who's been doing it for 8 years, and he says he doesn't enjoy recruiting. That sucks. I mean, I feel really bad for this guy right now. I've definitely had software jobs I hated, but I don't really hate writing software. Like, I actually kind of like writing software, you know? I mean, that's why I do it, and I do it for fun sometimes too. And I don't know. That really sucks that he just hates his job, or he hates recruiting. So these are all like super interesting to know too, just as a person who's tried to hire people and am trying to hire people right now. Like, a big problem is that the hiring managers are slow to respond. Well, yeah, I mean that's totally true. Like, you know, we're interviewing people and we've got a project with deadlines and stuff, and you know, if you forget to respond to the recruiter that, you know, here's your feedback for the interview, yeah, like that can totally happen. So that's totally understandable though, because everybody in tech is usually under like heavy deadlines to launch a product. I mean, unless you're at an enormous company with no oversight, or like nobody cares about what division you're in, like every smaller company, every like contracting gig, like everybody wants their product released now, and almost always your project is behind schedule almost always. So just because of the nature of software development, it's always more complicated than you think it is when you design the system. It's never going to launch on time, so everybody's busy. And the fact that people are trying to do interviews at the same time they're trying to build a product, or, you know, maintain a product, it means people are not going to get back to you fast. So that sucks, but that's good to know. And another thing that's super revealing is hiring managers who are paying below market rate for skill sets like AWS or GCP architects. Yeah, an AWS architect or Google Cloud Platform architect, I mean, that's kind of a rare skill for somebody who's good at it. Like, I've worked with people who say they're an AWS architect for sure, and like, you can ask them like pretty basic questions, and they'll be as stumped as you are. So like, it's actually difficult to find people that are really good at this stuff, just because, I mean, AWS and GCP are confusing. Like, AWS, you almost have a translator to understand like all the terms in it. So yeah, I mean, I definitely get that people are paying below market rate. So yeah, that's totally realistic. So this is more, he says his biggest complaint was there are far more incompetent recruiters that give good recruiters a bad name. I mean, I think that that's true for sure, because there are people that call me, mumble into the phone about some job, and then they just repeat the phone number. The only thing I can hear is like something about a job in New Jersey, and then here's the phone number. Like, okay, I'm obviously, like, I live in Minnesota. Why do I care about a job in New Jersey? You're just cold calling me and leaving a message that you mumbled into the first half, and then you gave me like a phone number. Do you think that's gonna work? It's just annoying. Like, who is that gonna work for unless it's somebody really, really desperate to get a job? And then if they're that desperate, they're probably not a good fit for whatever random job you came up with this. So I don't know. That's pretty broken. Yeah, I think that there are a lot of recruiters. I don't know what the industry washout rate is. Maybe it's like, I don't know, 50% leave after 2 years or something. I wouldn't be surprised if it was like that high, because I think there are a lot of recruiters that don't get a lot of training or something. So yeah, that makes sense. So I asked him what some of his frustrations were. Like, does it come from clients or candidates? And here's what he said. Um, It's kind of both. So the biggest problem is they blow off responding and slow down the process. I mean, that's true. Like just what I said, everybody's busy because every project almost is behind schedule. So you've got hiring managers slowing down the process, and you've got candidates slowing down the process because they want to get counter offers. I mean, that's a real thing. Like the best time to make more money as a software developer is when you're trying to get a new job. So if you don't line up a counter offer, you're just screwing yourself. Um, yeah, that's just realistic. Like I don't know how to fix that, but if you're not doing counter offers, you're hurting yourself. All right, so here's my final thoughts. There a lot of recruiters, they're literally just keyword matching, and they're just looking at whatever profiles pop up into their dashboard that morning, So, um here's a good idea. Don't do don't like fill out a dashboard Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because that means it. So if you're trying to get a job, here's my advice based on this. I think you shouldn't fill out a bunch of stuff Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, right? Because that means Monday morning, all the recruiters are going to get a flood of new shit in their inbox. And that means yours is going to fall through the cracks. So if you really do want to show up somewhere in a market, do it like on a Wednesday or a Thursday, right? I think that must be how it works. So a lot of times the hiring manager is just not offering enough money for anybody to be interested. And I think that must be also a reason why recruiters give you no information when they email you. Like, I mean, obviously the two things I want to know are who's the company I'm working for and what is the money. Like there's other important things, right? Like there's what is the job title? Like what are the technologies, all that stuff. But the thing that's always interesting is just like how much money is this company paying, right? So, and recruiters almost never lead with that information. Even a salary range, they never give you that unless you talk to them on the phone. So that kind of makes sense because most people are not offering market rate. Hiring managers can be slow. That's Yeah, but I think that's totally just because everybody's busy, and that sucks. So if you're trying to really hire people, you should get back promptly to the recruiter. Response rate's really low. Again, not surprising. I mean, this guy's blaming it on other recruiters kind of sucking and like bringing down the average and making people get a bad taste in their mouth about recruiters. I think that's some of it, but also, I mean, I think that if you're just keyword matching and you're giving no reason why you contacted them and you're giving no information about the job, like why should I even bother applying? It just means I'm going to have to get on a 20-minute phone call with you to get information about whatever you just emailed me about. And this last one, that staffing firms are forcing you to smile and dial, yeah, that super sucks. Because if you're getting like annoying messages all the time, cold calls, like I don't know if that's working. I guess it's working. Maybe it's working for really desperate people or something, but it's not working. I don't think it's working for the majority of software engineers. So sorry, my cat's being loud. So my thoughts are you should work with non-spammy recruiters. Like if you find a good recruiter that's thoughtful and kind of knows what they're talking about with tech, you should work with them because they're probably going to be better all around and understand the process all around, and they probably have more experience. Another thing is on both sides, be prompt. I mean, yeah, it sucks if you're a hiring manager, you're busy all the time and you've got to respond, and like sometimes you have to type up a lot of feedback. So that's pretty annoying, but just be prompt about it because you're going to have better results. And then on the other side is, if you're looking for a job and you're trying to line up counter offers, yeah, that takes forever to do, but just do it as fast as you can. So all of this stuff, the faster you are with it, probably it sounds like the better. This is a takeaway for job seekers. Let's say put all the right keywords in all the right places. So obviously a lot of recruiters are just searching on keywords. It sucks, but that's what they're doing. So if you don't include the keywords in your resume, you're not gonna get anywhere. Or if you don't include it in LinkedIn or Dice or whatever, yeah, you're not gonna get anywhere. And interestingly, yeah, well, maybe not interestingly, the big five are super competitive because people actually want to be recruited there because they pay the best. I mean, everybody knows that the big five pay the best. So if you want to work for Google, yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to get the recruiter to take notice of you and line up an interview maybe because everybody wants to work there. So that's it. This was just the first interview. I've got a couple more interviews I've already done. I'm going to write up and make videos of. I have this published to Medium, and I'm trying out an idea. I'm going to try to build a course. So I made a website at I Teach Recruiters. If you're a recruiter and you want to maybe sign up for this course, go over there and put your email on the waiting list. I'm not going to actually launch this course until I get a couple hundred people sign up for it. But, if you're a recruiter and you think it would be interesting to learn about tech topics, or, I'm just going to go through a lot of interviews with both developers and recruiters. So I think what the course is going to show is just lots of interesting information about, all sides of the tech industry. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, sign up for that. If you are a junior developer and you're trying to get hired, I'm going to do more of these interviews with more recruiters. So stay tuned. Should be interesting. Thanks for watching, guys.